The next matchup, I want to say the London game, but it's not. It's in Germany this week, isn't it? Indianapolis at New England. The Patriots are really beat up. Potentially no left tackle, potentially no JC Jackson. Does that make this more interesting, or do you think this is going to be Bill Belichick embarrassing Gardner Minshew in Germany?
It's definitely not as good as last week's Germany game, is it? I think you look at what we've got here, and it could have been so much more interesting if the Patriots had taken that kind of offensive step forward that we hoped under Bill O'Brien. If Anthony Richardson had been playing, then you could feel better about the product that was going to be out there. But you've got Mac Jones, who's the QB 30 in points per game. You've got Gardner Minshew, who's the QB 33 in points per game. Minshew's had 2 sub-10-point fantasy games as starter in the last 4. Mac Jones is working with virtually nothing whatsoever at the minute. You know, the wide receiver room has been decimated with injuries. You've got Kendrick Bourne on IR. You've got Devontae Parker still dealing with concussion injuries. But I think that there's reason to be optimistic about Rhamondre SZN. You know, he had a season high 129 yards last week. He had a career high 60-yard run. And the Colts aren't a team who are particularly strong against the position. You can see on screen there, the Colts allowed the 4th most fantasy points to the running back position. New England, they allow the 6th most running back targets. So it's also a game where I'm looking at Jonathan Taylor. I think if you want to get really different, you can try playing Zach Moss, but Jonathan Taylor seems to have pulled away slightly, just earning more of a role again. He had 23 touches in week 9, which was a season high. So I feel confident about him. I don't want to get overly aggressive with this game, though, because it just feels like this game could be a low-scoring affair. The under-over is 43.5, and I wouldn't have been surprised if it was in the sort of high 30s, 38.5 or so. I don't mind starting Michael Pittman if you're looking for a DFS showdown captain. I always prefer to be on the wide receivers than running backs. And New England allow the 8th most wide receiver fantasy points. And as you mentioned, New England's cornerback room is a mess. They're having all sorts of like discipline issues and bits like that at the moment. So I don't think that's an area we need to worry about. On the Patriots side, Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, both at sort of season highs in usage, but I'd probably lean towards the tight end position. The Colts allow 5th most fantasy points to tight ends, and Hunter Henry has had a reasonable role most of the season, even if it hasn't been particularly explosive.
Yeah, I basically concur with everything you said. This feels like a really ugly matchup. I mean, I was just having a little look, excuse me, whilst you were talking. 95% of the cash is on the under. 94% of tickets bet have been on the under, and the under's already dropped to 43. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that get closer towards the 40 number as the week comes, particularly with some of these guys that are getting eliminated. My Dynasty Nugget here, I talked about it in my article that went out to our Discord members. I really like Zach Moss as kind of a buy for 2024. I think, as you said, Jonathan Taylor is taking over this backfield. I think we're going to start to see Zach Moss almost as the forgotten man in this backfield moving forward. But he is a free agent. I think if you are looking towards 2024 and rebuilding, he's a really nice, cheap option that you can buy that could potentially see a massive value boost in the offseason if he gets signed somewhere as, you know, at worst, a 1B back in free agency, but he's got a chance to be a lead back somewhere, definitely.
What would you pay for him?
I'd happily pay a late second, but I don't think you have to go and pay that. I think you can probably get him for a third, maybe a couple of thirds, or maybe just get him as a throw-in in a bigger deal. But I think he's a really interesting, cheap acquisition if you're looking towards 2024.